Support comes from Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to sustainable and sound conservation of the state's forests, which support more than 41,000 Missouri jobs, resulting in a $10 billion industry. ChooseWood.com.
Welcome to St. Louis on the Air. I'm Don Marsh. A lot of attention has been paid recently to St. Louis area housing issues. We've done a program on housing inequities. Our We Live Here team is focusing on housing issues during its entire season. Today we're looking at opportunities for low and moderate income and first-time home buyers to purchase a home and grab a slice of that dream, thanks to the St. Louis Housing Partnership. It provides services including down payment and closing cost assistance in St. Louis City, St. Louis County, Jefferson, and St. Charles counties. With us with more detail, Kate Reese is Executive Director of St. Louis Housing Partnership. David Young is the Director of Capacity Building for Housing Action Illinois. And Bruce Dorpalen is the Executive Director of the National Housing Resource Center. He joins us by phone from Philadelphia. Thank you all so much for being with us. Great to have you.
Thank you.
Kate, let me start with you. Am I wrong in sensing that there is a greater emphasis on housing issues recently?
Well, April is the Fair Housing Month after all. But first, let me thank you for having us. And, this year and with the economic comeback we've been experiencing, there are more and more home buyers out there seeking to find their first home.
David, what are you seeing?
We're seeing the same thing across the region, where there are more people that are interested in buying a home, and so we want to make sure that the assistance is available to folks so that they can learn all the things that they need to know so that they can find a good mortgage, find a good property.
And Bruce, give us your perspective. I have more of a national outlook, I would think.
Yeah, we're certainly seeing plenty of demand for people who would like to buy a home. It's a daunting process, and it means that you have to master the mortgage process and finding the property in those pieces. And that's why programs like the local programs you have in St. Louis are so valuable, because there's nonprofit housing counseling groups that can work directly with a home buyer and help them get through the maze, help them address the kinds of issues that you have to figure out in order to qualify for a mortgage, deal with credit issues, deal with savings, deal with documentation, and all those things. There's a team of really high-quality professional counselors who are ready to work with people on those questions to help them get through it.
It is a complicated process. Anyone who has been through it certainly knows that. Kate, tell us about your process and how the partnership works.
So we are a nonprofit organization, and we're just turning 20 this year, so we have some experience behind us now. We actually build new homes and offer them for sale. They're affordable, and we're looking for low to moderate income buyers. And as a piece of that, but only a small piece of it, we have a program we call Homebuyer Services. And it's a combination of working with people one-on-one, where they are in the process, to help them clean up their credit, help them get some additional funds saved, make sure they have the money management skills necessary, and understanding the responsibilities of becoming a homeowner.
David, is your organization involved, and how?
Our organization is involved. Housing Action Illinois is what is known as a housing counseling intermediary. And so we actually support the work that Kate and our other sub-grantees do across our region. So, for example, by us applying for funds from HUD for housing counseling, we were able to sub-grant those to the Housing Partnership, which means they can spend more time actually providing direct services to consumers, while we handle administrative support for them and other groups in our service area.
Kate, you have a number of partners, don't you?
Oh, yeah. We couldn't do it alone, that's for sure. Anywhere from the private market with real estate agents, with loan officers from various banks and mortgage companies. We do, that's the name, the Housing Partnership.
Mm-hmm. Let me come back to Bruce and ask you, Bruce, to explain for us, if you would, the role of your organization in all of this. What do you do?
We work with nonprofit housing counseling groups all across the country, like the Housing Partnership. And the idea is that there is a very valuable service that's going on all around the country, working directly with people, and we'd like to be sure that that voice gets heard in Congress and in the administration and in other kind of government and policy-making worlds, that what's actually happening on the ground and what the experiences are that local counseling and consumers are having as a way of really trying to get that to be part of the policy discussion.
What kind of a reception and response are you getting from Washington these days?
You know, it's pretty interesting. We have bipartisan support, and we have both Republicans and Democrats speaking about the value of housing counseling. It's actually very, very encouraging. I think, and they may come from different perspectives on it, but this idea that you can become your own homeowner, control your own finances, build some wealth on your own, have something that works for your family, that kind of resonates for policymakers in the same way that it does for individual families.
Kate, it's one thing to find a way to purchase a home. It's another thing to maintain it, financially maintain it. So what you're doing is getting people off to a good start. How can you be certain that the low and moderate income people can afford a home?
Well, one of the things we do up front is to develop a monthly spending plan. Usually people are in a rental situation, so we work the numbers with them as they exist now, and then we say, okay, now you're going to have a mortgage. Here's your new payment, and then you've got to be putting some money away every month because the furnace will go out.
Yeah.
Guaranteed, and it'll be January when it's 5 degrees. So we try to just make sure people understand the difference, and the money management skills are so important.
David, where does money come from?
Well, money comes from a number of different places. In terms of supporting the efforts of housing counseling organizations, there is funds that come from HUD through the Office of Housing Counseling. We also have support from financial service organizations. For example, the Housing Partnership may get a grant from a local bank, may also have a contract for providing services through the City of St. Louis or another municipality or another municipal government. So there are a lot of places to look, and that's one of the things that, as an intermediary, that we help organizations to do is to actually help them with their fundraising as well as their other administrative operations.
Kate, who would a typical client be?
Oh, I don't know if there is such a thing. So just off the top of my head, we're talking about a single mom with 1, 2, 3 kids. We're talking about a married couple or an unmarried couple with a child or two. And most recently, I've seen a lot of women who have just retired. They raise their kids maybe on their own in a rental situation, and they're saying, now it's time for me. I'm buying a condo. So it's varied.
Do you find them or do they find you?
Well, that's part of the challenge. We get a lot of referrals from loan officers and real estate agents. We do a little bit of advertising as we can afford in local papers, and people come to us. But one of the reasons that I'm really excited to be here is to try to help put out the word about the programs. Because when I ask people in general, do you know what housing counseling is, I get blank stares. So we're trying to help raise the awareness, because not only in home ownership, but rental situation, reverse mortgages, foreclosure intervention, it's a really big field.
Bruce, are there organizations like this all over the country?
There are 1,900 HUD-approved housing counseling agencies. So the Housing Partnership is a HUD-approved housing counseling agency, which means that it's been certified by HUD and meets the standards that HUD requires for quality delivery. And there's a whole network of these groups. David's organization works with them aggressively throughout the Midwest. So it's a pretty robust community of people trying to do the best for people who want to buy a house or stay in their house.
What are some of those HUD standards, and are they universal?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So you have to be a nonprofit. You have to have your 501c3 status with the IRS. You have to keep your records up to a high standard. There are always privacy, security standards that are required both in the materials you keep and in your communications. There's training requirements. I mean, it's a pretty rigorous program, and it's really meant to make sure that counseling agencies really represent the consumer first. And when you walk into a door and talk to a counseling agency, they're really there to represent your interests and not to have a stake in the transaction. You're not getting paid a commission. You're really there to work with the client to help them get the right information and make the best decisions.
David and Kate, you're both sitting here nodding in affirmation. This is a rigorous process, clearly.
It is a rigorous process. And just last year, HUD introduced a new individual certification for counselors. So not only do housing counseling organizations have to be approved by HUD, but individual counselors have to take and pass an exam that focuses on 6 core competencies, including rental tenancy, pre-purchase, post-purchase, foreclosure, and that is helping to extend the professionalism of our industry. So over the next couple of years, all 8,100 housing counseling professionals across the country will be taking this exam. And so you will be able to, if you are a consumer looking for high-quality housing counseling services, by going to a HUD-approved housing counseling agency, which, by the way, is the only thing that consumers should do. You should look for a HUD-approved housing counseling agency. You also know that you have a housing counselor that has been individually certified. So it's the same type of professionalism that you would find with financial services, that you would find with the real estate industry.
Kate, how many counselors do you have?
So right now we have 2. We're one of the smaller organizations. My staff laughs at me because they said the only reason I wanted to be executive director is I didn't have to take that test. Because they will, and I'll be monitoring them.
You get into so many different things. It's not just a question of coming up with the funds and teaching people how to manage a house. I mean, home repair services, I understand, is part of what you do as well.
Correct. And that can take 2 different forms depending on the year and what money is available to us. We can be doing rather major renovations or repair of homes with professional contractors, or other years when the funds are a little drier, we're still out there working with volunteers to get yards cleaned up and decks painted and porches fixed.
Bruce Dorpalen, do you have any kind of numbers to give us with regard to the demand that is out there and the potential for home buying?
Well, housing counseling agencies see 1.3 million households a year, so more than just a person. That's the family coming in together, and it's the broad range of people that represent the housing markets in America. So it's low-income people, it's middle-income people, and wealthy people come as well. And during the foreclosure crisis, these groups were completely on the front lines when people had a loss of income or they had a toxic loan that with unfair terms. The counseling agencies worked very closely with people to get their loans restructured and get them back on their feet again. And saved a lot of houses, and a lot of houses in St. Louis from groups that were doing it. So when people get into trouble, housing counselors are there to help as well. It's an important part of the work that they do.
I'm really impressed by the scope of the kinds of things that you do. I mean, everything from repair work to dealing with toxic loans, for instance. I mean, that's a pretty broad range. I have to take a break. We'll do that now. And I'll also ask members of our audience, if you have home buyer help questions, we'd love to hear from you. Give us a call at 382-8255. That's 382-TALK. Send us an email to talk@stlpublicradio.org, or if you would prefer, that is, to send us a tweet, do so at STL On Air. Back to this conversation in just a moment. This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio, 90.7 KWMU. And welcome back to our conversation on homebuyer help. Kate, let me come back to you with regard to the home building that you mentioned a little bit earlier. You're in the home building business as well, huh?
Yeah, we try to be. This year, I think we'll end up having built 5 homes. They're being offered for sale, and they're generally 1 or 2 story, 3 to 4 bedroom, 2 full bath, with a basement and at least a 1-car garage. And we specifically work to keep them affordable. We'll have sales price coming up probably at $125,000 to $130,000. And so basically there's $200,000 homes when all is said and done.
How does one get into one of these homes?
Well, one needs to be low income, low to moderate income below 80% of what's called the area median income and be able to get a good mortgage. So we work with people sometimes to get them there, or they come to us already ready.
Give me some specific numbers with regard to the income range here.
So a single person at 80% of area median income, I believe, is $41,750. Does that help?
Yeah, that does. Just give us
$41,750. A family of four needs to be below $59,600.
How are these people vetted in terms of knowing who they are and really being certain that they can follow through on all of this?
Well, we are listing our homes on the market through a real estate agent, so it's fairly conventional in the way we do it. And people come to us. The main requirement is that they not have too much debt. So we're looking at ratios, both total housing ratio. We don't want it to be too big of a payment that they can't handle. The nice thing is new construction has very low maintenance. And we do partner with St. Louis County, who puts money in to help, allows us to build a nice home and sell it at a fairly decent price.
How many people in a course of a year might you be dealing with?
So, depending on the year, we try to build between 5 and 10 new homes to be sold. But within our down payment program, we're probably going to counsel, have 75 or so sessions, and help up to 50 people buy homes in multiple counties throughout the region. Yeah. So it's very specific to Lime on the one hand, but it's also very much a regional program.
The whole thing got started in Lime, didn't it?
Well, our organization did, yes, as a result of going back, for those who can remember this far, the flood of 1993, when the Mississippi River came up so high and really devastated Lime. Groups of people came together and said, let's look at the community and try to fix it. And 5 years later, our organization was formed with the help of the county, businesses, and residents in the area.
David, I understand that you're working obviously with Kate and her organization, but what's going on in Illinois?
Well, what we're seeing in Illinois is that there is a real interest in purchasing housing. We also see that there is an expansion of the requests for the housing counseling community. So we are seeing, for example, that more people that are renting and intend to rent for the long term still have questions about their lease or what to do about repairs or issues with their landlord, and they are seeking out the assistance of housing counseling organizations. And so housing counselors are being trained to provide that type of assistance. And then we're also seeing that a lot of people who aren't sure what they want to do in terms of buying a home or renting, but they want to be in a situation where they can better understand their financial situation and also better understand or improve their credit score, are reaching out to housing counseling organizations to help with that.
There again, I'm more impressed than ever with the range and the scope of all that you're doing. Bruce, what is your long-range objective of your organization? What do you hope to do? Put everybody who wants a home into a home?
Well, everybody who wants one and can afford one. I think it's very important. We've lost a lot of ground on home ownership in the United States. That we used to be in that 74% range of households having home ownership. Well, actually, I should say in the high 60s, and we've lost a tremendous amount of ground, and in the last over the course of the financial crisis, and that's had a big cost in terms of the financial security that families have in general. It's also more dramatically happened in African American and Latino communities, and the gap between their home ownership and white home ownership is pretty dramatic, as in 30 percentage points for African American and 25 for Latino. Our view is that we need to really create an environment where home ownership is easier to accomplish, that it's always affordable, and that that people can more easily get in. And the problem is the housing prices are rising, interest rates are going up a little bit. That that makes it harder. And I think it's also we in an environment where the credit box of how people qualify has gotten to be tighter, and that's why counseling becomes very important.
Sure.
You can really prepare people properly and help them address the things that would be barriers normally.
Our time is winding down. I want to get a quick caller in here. Pam's been waiting, calling from Chesterfield. Pam, with a quick question or comment, please.
You've talked about the contributions that the real estate industry and the banks have made to this situation. What are the homeowner insurance carriers contributing?
Go ahead, Dave.
There are insurance organizations that participate, will provide assistance, especially insurance companies that also have banks and have need to meet requirements of the of CRA will also contribute to assist organizations like the Housing Partnership.
We have a tweet from Caitlin who asks, can any of today's guests weigh in on eviction rates in St. Louis and how these programs help families who have been evicted in the past? Is that part of what you do, Kate?
Well, not really for us. I think if I speak too far, I'll be misspeaking. Mm-hmm. So I would, do you hear anything from your network of other counselors, David?
So we do have two other housing counseling organizations that we work with in the St. Louis Metro East area, CDBG Operations in East St. Louis and Justine Peterson, which is just down the road on Grand Avenue. And they do certainly work with organizations, with people that are looking for rental assistance, including evictions. And in a number of situations, it's helping those consumers to rebuild their credit so that they will be able to apply for an apartment or to be able to buy a house if that's the direction that they want to go.
The eviction numbers are really quite striking here in the St. Louis area. Our time is winding down, but Kate, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about your big event coming up later this week. It is a big deal, isn't it?
It certainly is, and I really appreciate the opportunity. So we will be hosting our 9th annual Tasting for Change event. And as I said before, it falls right on our 20th birthday, and it will be held at River City Casino and Hotel Event Center, Friday, May the 4th from 6 to 9:30. Ticket information can be found on our website at thehousingpartnershipstl.org, and that's a long one. So for those of you that didn't get that, you can call our office at 314-631-9905. Individual tickets are $50 ahead of time and $60 at the door.
I can't imagine many people in their cars have the pencils ready to write down that telephone number. We'll put all of that information on our website at stlpublicradio.org. That brings us to the conclusion of this discussion. Again, very impressed with what you guys are doing and the scope of all you do. Thank you so much. Kate Reese of the St. Louis Housing Partnership being with us. David Young with Housing Action Illinois. Great to see you. And Bruce Dorpalen is with the National Housing Resource Center. A reminder, once again, that Tasting for Change event Friday at 6 o'clock at the River City Casino. Thank you all so much for being with us. This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio, 90.7 KWMU.
Support comes from Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to sustainable and sound conservation of the state's forests, which support more than 41,000 Missouri jobs, resulting in a $10 billion industry. ChooseWood.com.